G2A have had another spicy PR incident. Epic have broken their own rule. Nintendo continue to misunderstand the internet, plus much more, as Australia bans another game and the new Timesplitters project actually receives good news. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Roundup, our Tuesday and Friday show in which we bring you the best and the worst of the industry news. First, YouTube changes to emphasize independent news sources. They seem to be hitting us, and they seem to be emphasizing subscribers and bell ringing, as evidenced by a new bar they've started showing creators. You guys like supporting us has actually moved that bar a lot, and it really has helped us. Our new videos are doing better than our ones 2 weeks ago. It's helped a lot, so thank you very much for subscribing and hitting that bell and liking. We appreciate it a lot, and with that, let's get into the news. First off, we've got some more wild G2A drama. Okay, last month, in response to being accused of profiting from fraudulent key sales, G2A proposed a key blocking system for their website. They would allow developers to verify themselves and provide G2A with keys to blacklist, which basically would put an end to the resell of those stolen keys. But there was a bit of a catch here. Development of this new feature would only start if they could get 100 developers to sign up. The original deadline has since passed with only 19 signing up, leading to G2A extending their deadline until the end of August, past Gamescom. And I think the low uptake sure is interesting. Maybe we're seeing more developers forego working with G2A out of principle, and being real with the resources that G2A have, they should not need to wait for that list to fill up. Being real, they're a massive company. More interestingly this week, after that update was reported, G2A were put on blast by the Subnautica developer Unknown Worlds. Their founder, Charlie Cleveland, commented saying, G2A is such a gross company. He suggested that the tool would not be that expensive to make and that G2A should not be publicizing the names of the studios who have signed up, claiming that G2A are trying to get their fans to attack developers. He says it's terrible that they've put the impetus on the developer there, and he agrees with Mike Rose, who said that it is better for players to pirate games instead of purchasing them from G2A because of credit card chargebacks. Yes, the chargeback fee actually hurts the game developer, so it's quite rough. Now, he mentions that his company had to pay $30,000 thanks to stolen Natural Selection 2 keys. So he then references G2A's past promise to pay back 10 times whatever a developer lost because of the chargebacks, and he said that if they're willing to put their money where their mouth is, then they owe him 300 grand. Now, as usual where G2A are involved, basically everyone just put the truth of the matter in the back seat and let their emotions get behind the steering wheel. So, while Charlie's points are relatively agreeable here, and fundamentally I do agree with them, he did not consider if G2A themselves had been involved in selling any of those stolen keys that hit them with Natural Selection 2, because as it turns out, it doesn't seem that was the case. That affair was publicized in March of 2013, and at that time G2A were just a regular store called Go2 Arena. They did not establish their key reselling business until December of that year. So G2A took the opportunity to respond in a blog post titled "Developer Demands 300k from G2A for something that happened before G2A even existed." They explained that the G2A marketplace only launched in 2014, which technically isn't true, but it kind of makes their point, which is to say that Charlie's point is not really true. This is what they say about that. That's just slander, and we expect him to at least edit his posts, if not straight up apologize. Now, in true G2A fashion, right, they could not just leave it there. They say that if Charlie would like them to hire an auditing company to double check if his keys were sold on a non-existing marketplace, that he should contact the G2A Direct team as per their initial offer. They also included a screenshot of G2A.com when Natural Selection 2 was being sold, and it was just a parked page. They had yet to purchase the domain. And that's pretty bullish, right? Now, you'd think that would be enough, right? But no, not for G2A. When they do PR, they do it pretty hard. They explain their existence as Go2 Arena in 2013 as a bit of trivia for archaeologists, and they explained that the list of developers who have signed up for the key blocker was always intended to be public in order to defend themselves against potential undue criticism, which mostly is just a hypothetical. Now, this whole situation to me, parts of it are reminiscent to the Ooblets Epic exclusivity sort of situation. Like with Ooblets, G2A could have just responded in a clean-cut manner. They could have just, left the facts and their intent. They could have called it a day. Instead, no, they took the opportunity to own their detractors in a hot, spicy moment. And yeah, a display of ego, corporate ego, that's what it really is. If they were amicable to developers and really seemed like they wanted to build bridges instead of just aiming for wins by owning people, then maybe they would have a better time. But saying that, this approach does seem to be working decently for them. They do have a lot of defenders. They have a lot of detractors as well, but they do have a lot of defenders. It leaves a sour taste in the mouth of developers and publishers, people who are in the business side of the industry, and quite a lot of consumers who are not happy about the key reselling problem and what they do as a grey market. But in being loud and aggressive, a lot of people see that as strength and will support that, and it certainly is a strategy that, while it may have its downsides, it does seem to be one that for them can work, because at the end of the day, I highly doubt that any of this stuff is even putting a dent in their sales. And then next, let's go over another PR blunder. This time it's Epic Games, although they managed to recover a little bit. So Fortnite's policy for Battle Pass items has been to ensure that Battle Pass items are never available for direct sale. Well, in a recent update, they pretty much threw that out the window. So, in the previous Battle Pass, right, they had this dog. It was just a dog in a backpack called Bonesy. Well, a new update to the game brought in a new dog, available for about $10 in the rotating store. Now, as you'll see on screen, it's not a new dog. Gunner, the new dog, is Bonesy, but with a barely visible skin tone change, I think a different eye color, and a decal on his scarf. Having minor differences between cosmetic content is not the biggest crime in the industry, where we have recolors and that pretty normally, but releasing a carbon copy of an item that was never intended to be for sale, well, I think the guilty verdict here took zero deliberation and fans were immediately outraged. It was pretty shameless behavior and it was called out without a second of pause. I will say this, to Epic's credit though, they responded surprisingly quickly, and I think they did the correct thing. Within the same day, they apologized on Twitter and they laid out their plan to remove Gunner from the store and from the game, and then to refund players who've already shelled out. But they're not just refunding the 1,000 V-Bucks either, they're giving people an additional bonus 200. And while that does not amount to much, it does show some common courtesy. And there's one major thing to take away from this. Consumer pressure works, especially when you can call out a company for violating something that it has said in the past, for going against their principles. As long as they've laid them out clearly, that's a really good angle to exert pressure, and I think a decently correct way to do it. The backlash to this was instantaneous, but it was focused because of that. Players immediately called out it going against policy, that it was a shameless item to sell, and this resulted in Epic ceding immediately. It was not particularly vitriolic, it just brought the developers' attention through feedback, and they quickly fixed the issue. Now, it's impossible to know if this was Epic trying to push the boat out in what they could do, what they could get away with, or if this was just a mistake because of the rapid content cadence that the game has. Perhaps there was a confusion, a management problem, and nobody really had the time to think about it, or just didn't go through the correct processes. I mean, it should not have happened regardless, but Epic did the right thing in how they responded here. Of course, they're not refunding the money spent in the V-Bucks. Those real dollars are staying firmly in the Epic account. I suppose that's another topic for another day, because that is the standard across the industry now. And then next in our day of companies making clear mistakes, we've got Nintendo. So Nintendo, while they do operate their business with a user-first approach, they do defend their copyright with extreme aggression. In true corporate fashion, they often completely misunderstand the market. So here's what's happened. They started mass flagging videos on YouTube that contain music from their games, so far targeting channels that are uploading original soundtracks and extended tracks. So Gilvia Sunner, who hosted hundreds of tracks, had well over 100 copyrights claimed, with another channel, Brawls, BRSTMS3, which was mostly handling extended tracks, they self-terminated out of fear. Now, as far as the defense of copyright goes, this is all fair and entirely within Nintendo's remit. They're allowed to do this. It is just defending their copyright. However, it doesn't really do much in the real world to protect Nintendo, and I would actually argue that it does the opposite. You see, as many users attest to, heading to YouTube to listen to music from games, well, that's often a labor of love. Listening to favorite tracks from old games and often encountering tracks that, basically end up securing a game sale because you're spending time with the IP. Their actions would make sense if they actually offered the music officially. Now, Square Enix and Bandai Namco, they recently did this, with the Final Fantasy and Tekken soundtracks now being available on Spotify and Apple Music. But Nintendo are lagging behind massively here. I mean, if your company has spent massive amounts of money creating these soundtracks, you think it would make sense to make those soundtracks available for your fans. After all, as consumers in the industry keep on having to say, piracy is a service problem. If Nintendo made their soundtracks available on a quality platform, everyone would benefit. They'd get a bit more revenue, probably wouldn't be a massive amount, and I think it doesn't even need to be for it to make them a lot of money. I'll get into that in a second, but Nintendo would get that, and people would benefit from being able to access some of their favorite content in a way that still supports the creator. At the very least, and this is the bit that matters, it would be IP engagement for Nintendo. It would be more time spent engaging in their product. So even if they did not make mad Spotify bucks, it still is going to lead to game sales. It's still going to keep people in the Nintendo wheelhouse. Now, the only good thing here is that this copyright claim wave is maybe because they are planning a big release of music. But if that is the case, why not line those events up instead of making just a clean, simple, bad PR move? Sometimes Nintendo's decision making is truly baffling. Okay, next up onto the Quickfire segment. So for the people about my age or a bit older, we all remember the Timesplitters series. Now, Timesplitters has got some good news. The next entry that has been in progress between many different owners, on and off for about 12 years, has now been reunited with its original creator. Last year, THQ Nordic picked up the rights, but did not mention their plans. Well, they've just recently revealed that they have hired Steve Ellis, one of the original creators of Timesplitters, to help plan out its future. So, hopefully, we will see a new and improved Timesplitters within the next few years. Then next up, in the realm of video game censorship, DayZ has recently been banned in Australia for featuring drug use. Now, it had existed in Australia perfectly fine before, but they attempted a physical release, and that prompted Australia's classification board to take a look at it. And, Aussies, I'm really sorry for you guys. It's rough. Your classification board is, man, they ban a lot of things in Australia. This is an issue that Bethesda had with Fallout. Sadly, though, the changes that the DayZ devs are implementing to get reclassified in Australia and have the game be sold there, they will be applied globally to ensure parity, even if it is only cosmetic. And it's always sad to see a regional restriction impact the global version of a game. Next, though, Epic have made another dent in today's news, this time because they're opening a new studio in Cologne. The founders of Factor 5, best known for Star Wars Rogue Squadron, so a pretty big one, they're creating a studio focused on emerging forms of interactive media and streaming technologies. Sounds like a lot of buzzwords, but if you think about it, it's pretty future-aligned. Now, while I would love to make jokes about how the Epic Store proves that Epic aren't great at tech, you've got to be realistic here. Unreal Engine 4 is a pretty darn incredible piece of work, and anything that could use Unreal Engine 4 in VR, AR, or streaming, well, that's likely going to be pretty beneficial for the industry. And then finally, to round us off, we've got another interesting trend. Games, especially within indie or smaller developers, seem to be happier announcing delays. And even in the AAA realm, well, Bungie recently pushed back the new Destiny update. They gave an apology with a good explanation, and people seem to like it. And now the Spelunky 2 developers have done the same thing. They claim their game is almost where they want it to be, but that the time required to just get the details right is just a little bit more than they thought. Basically, they misjudged their production schedule and are going to need to make some adjustments. While I'm sure some people are disappointed, this is the kind of honesty that I really think gets consumers on side, that lets a consumer understand the developer's experience and the making games is hard. It's great when they're open and honest, and especially when that's coming with an implicit promise of quality. So the more developers do this, and I think the more developers are open and honest about just the nature of development, I think the better for our industry. So there you go, that is another roundup. Lots of interesting stories. I would love to hear what you've got to say about today's news, so let me know down below. And yeah, with that, be sure to subscribe, like, and hit that bell button. Now more than ever, it really does help us out a lot. And with all of that said, thank you very much, and I will see you next time.